Welcome back to another video on Code Tech Tutorials. We're continuing the lab assignments. Last episode we finished up set 1 of this first thing. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm just going through these labs, completing them all and kind of over explaining them, and we're on to set 2. So if you want to see some of those previous ones from set 1, go check out the previous videos, and otherwise we're going to move on. We're using Cygwin on Windows. And we're using, I guess, what are we using? Visual Studio Code for editor. All right, let's see what this does. Write a program that swaps the value of two variables without using a third variable. Solution. Okay, here's the thing about this. I know what it says. Without using a third variable. There's always a third variable. So if you call the swap function that comes with C++, it has its own third variable in that swap function. Yeah, you don't see it, and it looks like you're not using a third, but you are. You just don't know it because it's hidden behind a library. So, can you even swap without using a third variable? Let's see what their solution is, because I don't know what they honestly want here. Oh, I see. Yeah, I guess you could do this. Huh. Enter two numbers. You enter the two numbers, and then what does it want? It wants A is now A plus B, and then B is A minus B. A is A minus B. That's a really roundabout way of doing swap. I've never done that before, but alright, let's stop looking at the solution and just write it ourselves. Let me just go into our labs folder, and I think we need to make a new set. Yeah, we do. So make dir vars set 2. And we'll just make a main.cpp. We'll also make a makefile this time. And let's just go ahead and open up these files in Visual Studio Code. There we go. Oh, so I'm going to put these in the vars set 2. Move. Okay, there we go. So in our makefile, we're just going to have a default, and it's just going to run everything. Compile and run. A.exe. There we go. Kind of like what we've been doing. Now we're just going to type make, and it'll do that command. So let's go back to our main. We're going to need IOStream, of course, for our console input output. That way we have a way to get info and show info to the user. And let's do this. So swapping two numbers. Enter two numbers. And yeah, we'll just do cn twice. We need some variables first. I guess we'll do integers. It doesn't, that's another thing about this lab. It doesn't specify. It just says two variables. The value of two variables. So they could literally be anything. Any sort of variable ever. I don't know. That's one thing this misses. So apparently they mean integers, which is specifically an integer, you know, it's not like just a variable, it's a specific type of variable. But whatever. So yeah, that's just something that annoys me. Like, we could literally make a really complicated class and instantiate that and swap it and be like, there's our solution, and it'd still be correct because it's a variable. And it's, yeah, whatever. We'll use integers then, fine. We'll use A and B, and we'll cn these A and B. A, and then take B. Oh, so we want A, and then B. This is a little different than what we were doing previously. And then, okay, so you take in A and B have a value. This swap thing with the minus, the way they did it, is not something I've done before. But let's think about this and let's complete it. What? No, I'm not. My head's not easily wrapping around this. So if A equals A plus B, now B is, well, A is just both of them combined right now. And then we can say B is now okay, it's A minus old A. Wait, what? I gotta look at the solution again. I didn't intend to do that, but I'm just trying to wrap my head around what they're doing here. B is A minus B. Is that right? Let's think about this. Okay, so we give them some values, and we'll just see out right here. Initial values A, B. We'll just do it like this. It's kind of like an XY type setup, and we'll just spit them out here. A, B, and then a new line character. And I guess I could surround them with parentheses like so. That means these have to be normal quotes now, because this is now a string. Apparently it gave me too many quotes. Thank you for over helping me, editor. Okay, so A becomes A plus B, and then B becomes A minus B. Is that right? Yeah, that's right, because basically B would become the old A here, because whatever this is, we're now subtracting off the B. This is a really weird way of doing swap. And then now A is going to become B minus A? Is that right? No, A minus B. Oh, because B is the new number now. Okay, I want to walk through this just so it makes sense to everyone, including me. Okay, so A becomes, so to do the swap without a third variable, first of all, A becomes whatever A and B is. So A is now whatever B is at this particular, or wait, I'm saying that wrong. Okay, A equals A plus B, and now B equals whatever A became, and minus the B off of it. So now it's just A, basically, the original A. And then we update the A. It's all about the order they update in. Now A is still this original A, but now minus the value of B. Let's see if this works. Swaps values. And we basically want this. Okay, so let's see if that works. Oh, just make. We gotta change directory into vars set2. And now make. There we go. Swapping two numbers. I don't know. Let's put an 800 and space and a 500. And it seemed to work. Initial values 800, 500. Swap values 500, 800. Excuse me. Okay, so that does swap. So that's a way of doing it. That's interesting. I've never seen this. Yeah, so I guess just note that down if you want to use that method. This will only work for stuff that can be added and subtracted together. There's another thing here that's kind of hidden between the lines, you could say, where if you have a variable that you can't just add and subtract together, you pretty much have to have a third variable, or at least a third place to put some temporary memory. And this probably does that behind the scenes. Probably. So, just FYI. Alright, well, this was question. This was 1. Let's go on to 2. And yeah, I don't want to spend any more time on that, but that's interesting. So I guess one of the reasons to do these is I probably have stuff to learn too that I didn't expect. Alright, let's go on to the second one. Write a program which, oh, they got some bad English here. I'll read it verbatim. Write a program which input 3 numbers and display the largest number using a ternary operator. Solution? Okay, so this is going to be interesting because we have 3 numbers. A ternary operator is pretty easy to do with a single condition branching in 2 different directions, but this has 3 different numbers now. So the ternary operator is going to be a little crazy looking. Alright, so we'll take in 3 numbers. So let's do this real quick. Enter 3 numbers. And we'll go ahead and I guess we'll scope this. That way we can reuse ABC. Okay, so these will all go out of scope after this is done, and we can do our own thing here. And I'll put this in its own scope too. Something I talked about in one of the other episodes, the whole scoping thing, in case you don't know what that is. But we want A, B, C. We could also use X, Y, Z. We could name them custom things, whatever, it's fine. And we'll just enter 3 numbers. Enter, oh, I've already said that. What am I doing? Alright, so we want a Cn of A, B, oh, and then C. I keep typing the wrong thing. Alright, there we go. So now we want to spit out the largest of them. So basically we're going to do this. The largest is, and then we need a ternary operator here. So we need a condition, what it is if it's true, right here, what it is if it's false, right here. All right, so this is gonna be a little weird looking. And there's the end of it there. But we need parentheses surrounding the entire thing. So we fill out this first condition here. Well, let's say if A is greater than B. Say, okay, so A is greater than or equal to B, then we know A is the biggest, but how big is it? So we go to this, because A is true, it's bigger. And we would say, well, let's do another ternary operator within the answer here. So that's going to look a little weird to some of you, and this autocorrect thing is driving me nuts. I typed parentheses and it gave me an extra random one somewhere. Okay. Does autocomplete drive anyone else nuts, or is it just me? I mean, yeah, sometimes it's really helpful, but other times it's like, oh, I have an extra quote mark here, and when you delete it, I'm going to delete one way on the other side of your line, and it just messes things up half the time. So I'm about to go to Vim, is what this comes to. All right. The largest is, okay, so if A is bigger than B, then we want to say, we go to this true statement, which is going to check, well, is A bigger than C? So we do another ternary operator within this true section here. And let's surround it very deep within parentheses itself. So true, an answer, false, an answer. I'm just using ASDF as placeholders, oddly enough. So if now A is greater than C, then we can just output A, because A is the biggest one. If it's not, well, then we need to check. Let's see, we already know A is bigger than B. So it's either A or C. And if A is bigger than C, then it's A. If C ends up being bigger than A, then it's C. And the other third condition, what would be, well, B. So if B ends up being the big one, or if, let's see, if A ends up being less than B, then B is bigger. But is it bigger than C? We need to check that. So we do, in this false condition here on the original ternary operator, we do yet another ternary operator with a true false. And I'll put some my ASDF placeholders here. Alright, so the new condition is now, well, if it goes to this case, then is B greater than or equal to C? Because if so, the answer is B. And if not, the answer is C. And there's the answer. Let's put a new line at the end of this. So this whole giant ternary operator will tell you which is the largest. And on the equal cases, I'm just, I'm just going to give you the first one basically is what this is doing. So if A and B are equal, it's going to say A because that's just the way it's written. There's nothing in the question about handling equal numbers, so I'm just kind of making an executive decision here of if it's equal, then whatever, we pick the earliest one that's equal. All right, so let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to skip this here, and the one way we can skip this is if we put a continue here, right? No, it has to be some sort of loop. Never mind. Doesn't just work for plain old scoping. All right, so let's just comment out this for a second, and we'll run the largest is. So we'll do a new make here, let it run, enter 3 numbers. I'll do a 5, a 6, and an 8. I'm just putting a space in between those because if you have them lined up like that, they need to be separated by a space. Or a new line. New line works too. So it says the largest is 8. Very good. It seemed to work as intended. We'll press it again, enter 3 numbers. This time we'll do 80, 500, and 2. And it says largest is 500. So it appears in our initial 2 tests that the ternary operator is working correctly, built the way it is there. So let's move on to the next one. 3. Okay, here we go. Write a program that accepts amount as integer and displays total number of notes of RS 500, 100, 50, 20, 10, 5, and 1. What? Accepts write a program which accepts amount as integer, okay, and display total number of RS. What on earth is RS? I've never heard it called this. It looks like I don't understand. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't know what this means. I see the example and what he's doing. Total number of RS. What? What are you even talking about? For example, when a user enters the number 575, the result would be like this. 500 to 1, 100 to 0, 50 to 1, 20 R's, and note number of notes of R's. I really just have to take a wild guess here. Like, could they maybe explain this in a way that is English? You know, that would be nice. Or just define whatever R's is. R's. I've never heard whatever they're doing here called R's. So don't feel bad if you haven't either, or maybe you have, and maybe I'm the one being left in the dust here, but nope, never heard of it. So I have to look at the solution because I don't know what they're even talking about. I just have to guess. Okay, so if someone entered 575, we would say, okay, well, there's one 500, there's one 100, or there's no 100. I see what they're doing. They're just adding it up. It's like how many dollar bills would you need to make this amount? That's basically what they want. Because there's $1 bills, there's $5 bills. I guess they're skipping the $2 bill. There's 10s, there's 20s, there's 50s, there's 100s, there's 500s. So they're talking about, as far as I can tell, they're talking about money here and how many. I think by notes they just mean dollars. I guess some countries they call them notes and stuff, but I'm sort of used to that. But this whole R's thing is throwing me off. I don't know what that means. I've never heard of that. Still never heard of that. Even after this, I guess I can say I've heard of it, but I will never correlate RS to dollar bills because that doesn't work. It's never been defined like that for my entire life. Let's look at the solution. I guess I already know. The solution's pretty easy actually. So we take the number and we want to see just how many of each of these it takes to build up to that number, and let's do that. All right, that's easy. That's easy enough. Not even understanding their freaking, in my opinion, wrong use of our language, I can still figure out this problem. Alright, so let's take in an integer. Cout, enter an integer. That's some rhyming words. And we ate another little dotty thing there. Int a and cn a, and then we're going to. So we're going to have to kind of design something a little bit more elaborate than usual. But we're both basically going to have to go through and subtract off these and see how it goes. So it's going to be a bit of a flow of control sort of looking thing in the end. But basically we need to print each of these and then print a number after it showing how many it takes. So I'm actually going to make another variable here called, I don't know, I'll just call it updated. And that's updated. Updated. And what we're going to do is first we're going to standard cout. We're just going to do all these. 500. I guess we'll do 500 here. Oh, 500. And let's see. Let's make sure we follow it. Colon, and then we need to spit out how many 500s it took right here. So we need basically a division type thing. First we'll say if a equals 0, I don't know, we'll just exit -1, or we'll say something. Cout can't operate. I don't know, we could just say all zeros. Everything's just going to be in all zeros if this is 0. So I guess it's not that bad. But basically what I'm getting to is we don't want to divide by 0. If we're dividing by 0, things are going to get all bad. But we'll just skip that possibility right now. We're not going to worry about that. But we could have a little statement somewhere that says if a is 0, then don't do the operation and just return GTFO, because it's not going to work. So right here we need to output the number of times 500 will go into this number that we have so far entered. And it looks like this episode's going a little over 20 minutes. I'll just finish up this problem and call it a day. So, all right, let's do this. So how many 500s? Let's think of some hypotheticals here. What if we enter in like 1500? Then this should say 3. So what we're going to do is we'll just take a divided by 500. And that will give us an integer. And I think we want to floor this as well. So if we floor a divided by 500, that'll round it down. So if we have like, I don't know, 19, if we have like 999, this will just say 1, which is what we want, right? Okay, so let's put a new line here at the end. And let's just test it with our very first part. I guess I could write the rest. It's not a big deal. It's actually pretty easy once we've gone this far. We just need to make sure we update this variable. So that's kind of the tricky thing, because we need to subtract this 500 off of it as we go so that the rest works. So the updated is going to be a minus, let's see, 500 times the floor of a divided by 500. So we're going to subtract out off that many 500s. So whatever this ends up being, if it ends up being 1, we subtract off 1 500. If it ends up being 2, we subtract off 2 500s. So that's the point of this updated here. That way we can do our next process with the hundreds, and it'll look very much the same. We want to do very much the same thing with updated. And let's see, we should get our right answer. So it's just going to look like a little cascade of these numbers basically for a while. And we're at 50 next, 50. And I'm curious to see if I nail this on the first try or not. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. So this is the 50 bill, and then we got a $20 bill next. 20. We'll grab this here and go ahead and update. So normally, if you're programming and doing something like this, you'd hide this all deep within a function and just say, give me the value, let the function handle it, and if it messes up, the only thing you have to edit is that one function that handles it. So you can kind of encapsulate it and say, hey, I can't figure this out, I want to hire someone to work on this function, or whatever it may be, and they can isolate and work on just that function and not mess up the rest of your program. So a little rant there where I'm typing here, but now we're doing the $10 bill, and we're going to do this updated once again, except it's going to be 10 and 10. And you might have noticed I'm making a mistake here because I am only updating this updated variable, but A is still the one being processed on. So what actually needs to be processed on is A. So rather than using updated at all, we're just going to update A and say A now equals the new value. So this is something you can do with C++ that's kind of cool, is you can set a variable equal to, and then you can use it again on the right side, and it'll calculate all this first on the right side and then update A afterwards. So these A's over on the right side will be the correct value until it's all done. So this should actually work. We don't need the second variable, and there we go. Very good. So if you caught that before I said something, kudos to you. You are ahead of the curve. So this is the $5 bill now, and the $1 bill last. And we don't really need to do a final update on A because we're done processing, and we should be good. Let's see if we get the right answer here when we compile this. So I'm going to clear this so it goes up to the top, and let's just do a run. We got an error. Floor. It doesn't like floor. I think we need to include cmath or math.h, or maybe it's just math. Apparently math doesn't exist, so cmath, okay. Enter an integer, yeah. So cmath is what has the floor and absolute values, and a lot of these little additional helper commands. Of course, we could write our own, but we don't want to deal with that right now. So let's enter an integer. Let's do, I don't know, let's do 999 and see if we get the right answer. And so far, it looks good because there's one 500, and then 4 more 100s brings us up to 900, and then a 50 to bring us up to 950, 2 20s to bring us up to 990, no 10s needed, a 5 brings us up to 995, and then 4 1s brings us up to 999. So it appears that that works very good. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of completing C++ Beginner Labs, starting from the very beginning, and we're going to go through every single one of these. If you want to see more of them as we go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you get some kind of information, or I guess the notification button is more important if you want to see when I post the next ones. But if you're a beginner and getting into C++ and these are giving you a lot of information, highly recommended. It's an awesome language to learn. It can really do a lot for your future. And yeah, I guess that'll do it. Also, don't forget to give this a like if you like it. And peace out, guys. Keep coding. I'll see you in the next episode.